My name is Matt Boerson. I am one of the co-owners of Boerson Farm here in Green Lake, Wisconsin, and I am also a representative on the Green Lake Association's Board of Directors. I've gladly served in that position for the last 4 years, and I've learned an incredible amount about the treasure that is Green Lake. Um, I grew up not far from Green Lake and um, feel like it's a great pleasure to call this my home. Um, and being on the board of the Green Lake Association has given me a whole new appreciation for the quality of water, um, not only in the lake, but in all of the area surrounding the lake, the watershed and beyond. Our farm actually sits just outside of the Green Lake watershed, but both the Green Lake watershed and the Upper Fox watershed that we're a part of come together and flow north via the Fox River and eventually end up in Green Bay. So today I wanted to take a little bit of an aerial tour of our operation and talk about some of the ways that we are trying to steward all of the water that is falling onto our land and then one way or another leaving our land. So if you would kindly join me for a little flight over the farm. So here we are, welcome to the farm. We're looking south over the 69 acres that make up Boerson Farm. You can see our land is the bright green rectangle nestled in. We are sitting on the shore of Stellmacher Lake that's in the foreground, and then you can see Big Green Lake peeking out on the horizon in the background. So as the crow flies, we're not that far away. The farm is USDA certified organic, and almost everything that we do on the farm is informed by the health of the soil, because that is key to producing good crops and a healthy environment. So what we do is guided by these 6 principles of soil health. So one of the most important things about soil health is not disturbing it, either mechanically or with chemicals. As it says here, in nature there is no mechanical or chemical disturbance. Part of that is trying to leave as much cover and protection on the surface of the soil to protect the microbes in the soil from the harsh effects of the cold and the heat. Another big part of soil health is diversity. We need a diversity of plants, animals, microbes, insects, all manner of organisms to make healthy soil. Living roots are feeding that diversity of species, and then we are combining the growing of plants with animals together. So grass-fed beef is one of our main enterprises on the farm, and we maintain a herd of about 12 cow-calf pairs and finishing steers that are going into their 2nd year. The grass-fed beef operation is modeled after the bison that roamed the prairies that surrounded Big Green Lake many, many years ago. And the grassland ecosystem, which was previously prairie but now on our pastures is our domesticated species. But grassland ecosystems build soil faster than any other ecosystem on the planet Earth. And this has been a relationship between ruminants or grazing animals and grasses that has taken millions of years to develop. But the process of growing grass and then having the cattle come and eat that grass causes the roots of the grass plant to shed, and this feeds the soil with all of those nutrients, and then the plant is left to rest by moving the animals to a new paddock, as you see here, and then the cattle come back and do it all over again in 30 to 45 days. And this pulsing of the grass allows us to grow soil. Another main enterprise on the farm is our certified organic vegetable production. We grow about 1.5 acres of intensive vegetables. You can see our growing plots here. You'll notice these big black rectangles. Those are plots that are being covered by silage tarps, which are just heavy-duty plastic tarps that we can reuse over and over again. And that allows us to clear the soil of weeds and debris without tillage. So our vegetable production is very minimal tillage. We do some stirring of the soil at the surface to make a seed bed especially for things like carrots, but for the most part we do not ever invert the soil. So taking a bigger view here, you can see that the majority of the farm is covered in green living crops, like one of the, as we saw in the soil health principles, maintain living cover. And we're adding diversity, so we have a flock of laying hens that we are able to move around in this mobile coop. You can see them shuffling out in the morning, and then coming back up to the 10,000 foot view here, putting our farm in a little bit of context. You'll see that the rectangle on the bottom left is bright green, and then as we move across the landscape here, we're starting to see a lot more brown. Those are tilled fields, which is the traditional way to prepare a field for sowing seeds. In this case, the majority of these fields will be planted to either corn or soybeans. And when you look at this tilled field, we can see that the majority of the soil health principles are being ignored. There's no cover on this soil. There are no living roots in a bare tilled field. There is very little, if any, diversity. In the soil, there is some microbes and macroorganisms, but in terms of plants covering the soil, there's nothing. And this is done in agriculture to simply enhance the singular crop that a farmer is trying to grow. In the process, all other forms of life suffer. And this is important in our conversation as we think about Big Green Lake, because when we ignore those soil health principles, we are actually creating a situation in which water is unable to infiltrate or enter into that soil. And that's because water is allowed to enter the soil through pore spaces that are created by soil biology. And when we harm the soil biology, we harm the soil's ability to absorb water. So we have a soil surface that's exposed and not able to allow water to enter, and that is the direct cause of surface erosion. Water in our increasingly large rainfall events is striking that soil surface and disrupting it because there's no cover or armor on top, and then it is dragging or causing those nutrients to flow over the surface and into our water bodies. And the soil, as you may have heard in previous Lunch and Learn series, has phosphorus attached to it. Phosphorus is what fuels algae growth and weed growth in our surface waters. So just taking a gander at the neighborhood here around Boerson Farm, you can see there's a lot more brown than there is green. There's a little strip there, which is a grass waterway on the right-hand side of the screen. And that's typically the extent to which a continuous living cover is placed on conventional fields. Um, Whereas in a grazing operation or a perennial agriculture system, as we're practicing at Boerson Farm, we are able to keep living plants on the soil 365 days a year, living roots in the ground 365 days a year. And so we're not giving that water an opportunity to run off our land, but instead creating a lot of space for that water to sink in and percolate slowly and back down to the water table. Uh, as we move back across, you can catch another glimpse of the grass-fed beef herd. We rotate the beef twice a day. Sometimes that changes a little bit, but morning and night the cattle are moved to a new paddock, um, which changes in size with the season and the availability of the grass. But that ensures that we utilize the grass and then give it plenty of time to recover. So that process of soil formation of the, the grass roots living and then dying and shedding off and providing food for the soil life happens over and over again during the season. Um, and our goal is then to build soil as we go. And that is the basic definition of regenerative agriculture. Most of the practices that we utilize on our farm fall under the umbrella of regenerative agriculture, which is growing soil. We're actively taking carbon out of the atmosphere, and through the magic of photosynthesis, we are locking it back up beneath the surface of the soil, where it does wonders to grow healthy and nutritious plants and animals. So I hope you enjoyed this little tour of the farm. I appreciate your time very much, and thank you to the Green Lake Association for all the work that they are doing on behalf of the waters of Big Green Lake and beyond.